if their servers go down, nobody's cats are getting fed. And that's what happened for 2 days. And people were calling it Starve Your Cat as a Service. And like, so there's a good example of sort of what not to do.
Hello and welcome to Off Script. My name's Josh and I'm joined by James, and today we're talking about Internet of Things. Hello Rio, how are you doing?
I'm good. So today we're going to talk about the Internet of Things, which is an awful phrase and doesn't really describe what it is at all.
No, not at all. I have had mixed experiences with the Internet of Things.
Yeah, so when you think Internet of Things, you think like shit consumer products, Wi-Fi enabled kettles.
Still got an issue with that, yeah.
Like just all the consumer side of it. But actually, there is a whole industry of stuff going on, which there's actually some useful applications.
Useful things?
Yeah, actual problems solved using technology.
Yeah.
Well, before Internet of Things was a term, people were like connecting devices across the country, across the world.
Yeah.
Before that, like it's just garnered this new sort of term, and it sort of seems to be more sensory leaning, like in the hobbyist world at least. But to me, it means anything connected to the internet.
Which is just anything anyway. Really.
Yeah, it's just the internet, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the people that have been doing this for the longest are like banks. They've been rolling out ATM machines. You've got point of sale. You know, like people have been doing connected devices, like even like vending machines and stuff. They all used to have like SIM cards and machine to machine comms in there and stuff like that. That's sort of the very early beginnings of like getting these devices talking to each other.
I guess only recently we've been able to see a lot more exposure to it because the affordability and technology has got to a point where anything can be connected to internet because of how it's built.
Yeah, the price points come down. You can get an ESP32 microcontroller. You can stick it on your kettle and whack it on Amazon. Jobs are good, and what could go wrong? Obviously, the big downsides of IoT for me are making things more complex than they need to be.
Yeah.
And a fine example of this is I thought it'd be really cool to get an internet-connected pet feeder called Petnet.
Petnet, good name. I like what they did there.
Yeah. So V1 Petnet, very well reviewed on Amazon. It arrived, was very excited. You put kibble, like my cat's favourite is turkey flavoured biscuits.
Did Lulu like the brand machine to it?
The actual feeder itself. Yeah. There's a button on the front which dispenses a feed. The cat is too dumb to know that if you just press that, you should get extra food. A dog would probably figure that out fairly quickly, I think. You can disable the button, depending on the smartness of your animal.
Wise. Yeah.
So yeah, pretty happy with this because I thought, new flat, let's get some cool internet things in it.
Yeah.
And then came a day when I noticed they were getting some traction on Twitter, and loads of people were saying that their pet feeder was not working. So the way they had it set up was you had this shiny app.
Yep.
They pair together on Bluetooth, and your app helps it get onto your Wi-Fi. Standard sort of IoT device onboarding thing. And then you set a schedule. So you set, I want to feed X number of grams at these times, and it ties in with different pet food supplies, all very fancy. The problem is their software engineers weren't very good. So what they did was that schedule gets stored in a database somewhere, and then the cloud tells the pet feeder when to dispense food at the precise moment that it should dispense food.
So it's basically almost like a cron on the internet. It pings.
So you've got this massive single point failure.
Yeah.
So if your Wi-Fi goes down, you can't eat. If their servers go down, nobody's cats are getting fed. And that's what happened for 2 days. And people were calling it Starve Your Cat as a Service. And like, so there's a good example of sort of what not to do.
So that's That's not specific to IoT style device. That's just bad architecture causing kind of a malfunction in the tech, could you say? Or do you think it's more likely with IoT style things?
I think it's very easy to make something quickly and easily and overlook the actual design of it. Because, ideally you'd have the schedule as close to the thing that's doing the schedule as possible.
So they probably just didn't want to do the scheduling on the device because of whatever reason of implementing it was harder than doing it on the server.
Maybe they couldn't figure out time zones, or they had some other thing. I don't know.
I mean, a cat getting fed at BST or Indian time zone is still better than a cat starving. So
I guess if you're a naive company developing IoT, you might get a proof of concept together, and it's like, can we make it feed from the internet? And they do that, and like, all right, it's done.
Ship it.
Ship it, bill it.
Cool, £100. Bye.
So when we were, obviously we've had quite a few IoT projects in a time, but when we look at how we architect it, we look at all the failure modes, and we think about how this could go wrong. So we do all the streetlights in Aberdeen are connected to our servers, and we make sure that the schedule lives on the device itself, because any other way would be incorrect. If the streetlights start misbehaving because the internet's not working, that would be bad.
Some sort of motorway disco is not a good not a good thing.
Don't do that.
I think the interesting thing there is because I have the same concern with a lot of, I guess you could declare them as more mainstream IoT things. But if you think about it, a Sonos device is an IoT style device. It's a set of internet connected speakers. Without Sonos's, Sonos works, I believe, without any sort of Sonos backend if you're using it locally and it's set up. But I've got cameras from different providers. If the cameras servers go down, the cameras don't work. You kind of want to have multiple failure modes and make sure that things work in those environments. I know a lot of like consumer smart lighting, like if you get a power cut, all your lights come on and it wakes you up. You mean Hue? Is what you're saying.
Philips Hue, looking at you. And it just complicates things needlessly, doesn't it? It's
tricky though, because you've got that kind of balance between the commercial viability of something with the core functionality. So, for example, if Ring or Canary or someone said, "Oh well, if you don't want to use our services anymore, then you can just detach it and use it as a standalone camera." That'd be great, but you can't do that.
No, because it's all integrated, and they want you to get the subscription or whatever.
Exactly.
And like, you're tied in forever.
I'm well bought in.
Or the company goes bust and it bricks your physical object.
Which has happened a few times with different things, right? So.
Or they get bought and they don't want to maintain it anymore. And the consumer space for this is not great. It's not giving it a good rep.
I think in recent years, though, there's been a massive improvement. So if you're looking at the Nests and other areas, you're still tied into the core provider. But I think the reliability and the hardware has definitely taken a step up.
Well, Nest can do some stuff without the internet.
So you can just use it as a standalone thermostat still. Great. You didn't used to be able to, I don't think.
And things like AirTags are great. Like, very simple. Like, they've got a little cell battery in them. They'll last for a while. You find your lost stuff.
I guess they still rely on Apple's infrastructure, but the likelihood of Apple discontinuing that tomorrow is probably quite small.
No, I think AirTag's a good example of a nice, simple IoT style.
Does that, because you can just use it, is it direct from devices, isn't it? So it uses the peer-to-peer network for discovery.
So in lost mode, it'll send out a little chirp every so often. And other devices can pick that up and locate your item.
Right.
I think in day-to-day use, I think you communicate with it directly from your phone, I believe.
Nice.
I haven't read the spec. I'm just guessing.
You just use it.
If stuff just works and you don't have to understand how it works, that's usually good.
Definitely. Absolutely.
But IoT should really be for in business for sort of like reducing your labour costs. So we're working on a smart bin project for North Yorkshire County Council at the moment.
Right.
So putting a little sensor in each bin, it communicates over LoRaWAN, which is like a long distance radio. So there's no like monthly subscription that they have to pay for a bin, which would be silly.
It would be crazy.
And it just prevents the collection of empty or nearly empty bins, which doesn't sound like a massive problem until you realise that this person will be driving, so they're using petrol, or hopefully they've got an electric vehicle, but they're driving, they're collecting the waste, because they're already there, they might as well collect it.
Yeah.
So they're using a bag, so it's more waste into the environment, and spending more of their day doing that when they could be doing productive things.
Yeah. And when you scale it up, it's quite a big saving over time. Obviously, it's the long game for this sort of stuff, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and we integrated it with Grasshopper, which is like Graph-Hopper, which is the travelling salesman problem.
Yes.
They have a solution for that.
Oh, okay.
Which isn't bad. It's all right. It's pretty good.
Glowing review there.
I don't think it's like fully the most optimal solution all the time.
Yeah.
But it's good. That'll give you a route to go and collect these bins.
Nice.
But yeah, it's decent. Obviously, another thing is to sort of lower costs, like energy bills, again, and environmental impact. The street lighting project, for example, if you sort of turn these street lights down at times where it's not so busy, you can actually save quite a lot on the energy bills. And as we know, energy is only costing more and more. So
that sustainability angle is definitely a huge benefit of that sort of implementation of IoT.
Yeah, and in sort of manufacturing, it's often used for quality control.
Yeah.
So you might have an automated testing process for, could be food, could be a device that you're manufacturing. If you can have some way of monitoring the production line, then you know that you're actually going to have less defective items come out of that line.
And I guess these are things, especially in their production lines, things that have existed for years. Some of the pioneers of manufacturing have had these sorts of sensors and things instrumented along the way. Yeah. But again, the technologies that are now making this more accessible to pretty much every manufacturing process is huge.
Yeah, well, manufacturing really sort of pioneered some of this stuff. So they've had standards for years of machines being able to talk to each other and signal when to stop machines ahead and all that kind of stuff. There's all sorts of standards for that.
Yeah.
But now you can layer on like things like cameras with AI and like sensors onto devices that didn't have them. Sort of retrofit smarts onto dumb machinery and stuff like that. So
I guess we're seeing a lot of that in the kind of domestic space as well. You're seeing IoT style devices that literally are just made to click some sort of button somewhere.
Yeah.
So you're making things smart by just automating the sensor change or the switch or something.
Yeah, well, there was that big wave of like smart plug devices, weren't there?
Yeah, none of them fucking worked for me. Honestly, yeah. I must have spent 200 quid in plugs and none of them worked.
Yeah, they're quite limited because the thing that you're switching on has to be able to be switched on all the time. So you couldn't use it for like a toaster or something like that.
No.
It's just like, hotwire your toaster and then hope the internet will switch you off at the right time.
Yeah, I'm not sure if your house insurance would really cover that one.
Yeah, it sounds like something Lawrence would try, to be honest.
Well, you've got to try it to know it definitely won't work and it sets fire to your house. So, but yeah, probably not an advisory for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, another thing is the predictive analytics and better decision making that can come out of monitoring things.
Yeah,
a lot of people just whack a load of sensors on stuff, stick it in a database, and like, we've got all this data. What do we do with it now? So it's important that you don't collect all the noise as well. But yeah, there are really good applications of IoT. One of the things we worked on a few years ago was it's a health focused product where they basically think they can detect the early symptoms of a severe asthma attack.
Right.
So in the UK, there is quite a high child death rate of people suffering asthma attacks because of road pollution and loads of other things like that. This was a very important sort of respiratory disease to look at until obviously coronavirus came along.
Yeah.
And that took centre stage for a bit, but now they're picking things back up.
Yeah.
They've got clinical trial with AstraZeneca. We helped build a device where it logs all this stuff, and we were quite privacy conscious. We wanted to make sure that we're doing the right thing. So all the data that the device collects, it encrypts and stores basically on a storage medium inside the device.
Right.
And even the device itself can't decrypt it. So only when it gets taken to the cloud, there's a unique key pair for every single device.
Right. Nice.
And it's very important that you have that. Same with the street lighting project. Like, we made sure that every device has its own unique key. A lot of this IoT stuff, it'll be like one key to rule them all, and like,
one of them is compromised, and that's the end of that.
That's it, and you can't change a lot of these devices.
Well, that's the thing. It's one thing shipping it with certain firmware and whatever else, but it's keeping them up to date and keeping them secure is a big challenge.
Yeah, well, OTA has always been a big thing for us. Like, we did the OTA for the streetlights and
over the air updates.
Over the air updates, sorry, very important thing to add in, because the only other way you would change the software is by getting a cherry picker, unscrewing it from the lamp, taking it back.
That's not a sustainable model.
It's quite expensive, that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So you don't want to brick it either.
Yeah.
So, careful design around how you manage the software versions in the cloud is pretty important, Parallax. And something we're keen on getting in. It's feature number 1 for us. So with a new project, a consumer-focused project we're working on, I don't know how much I can talk about it, but task number 1 is, let's make OTA work, let's make over-the-air updates work, let's make sure we can make it secure, update it from the cloud, then
that's nice. You
can just layer on all your stuff after that. So the key to it is to have 2 partitions. So you have like an OTA 0, OTA 1 areas of firmware. So while you're running in one section, you're doing the OTA, you overwrite the other section, you try and boot into it, and then you set a flag right at the start of wherever you can store stuff once it's successfully booted.
Nice.
And then if it doesn't successfully boot, it'll restart and fail over.
So you're doing rolling deploys on firmware.
Yeah, basically, So that's how the streetlight works. That's how the same with the asthma thing and the new consumer product as well.
Nice.
Just get that nailed and get it solid, and then
I like that, along with the privacy concerns as well, because a lot of the kind of, I'm trying to think of the polite way to word this, a lot of the shitter devices don't have many considerations for privacy or for security really in general. The security stuff isn't as hard as you think it is. It's not, but it's sometimes not even considered. So, even just stuff like encryption on device and making sure that it's transmitted securely, things like that's great. But equally, collecting data with intent. You said that some sensors just collect everything and then they figure out what to do with it later. That can be useful in some scenarios where you use data science to understand or to iterate on models and figure out what to do with it. But equally, if you have no business collecting that data in the first place, don't collect it. It's the safest way. Yeah,
definitely. Especially if it's like audio data or something like that.
Exactly.
You need to be very, very careful. And a lot of the encryption tools that you can use can be overcomplicated. So like OpenSSL and things like that.
Yeah.
You should use things like libsodium is amazing. And a lot of modern libraries are based on libsodium. So
what's libsodium?
So libsodium is like a really simple way to use really like industrial grade encryption. It's very difficult to misuse. Right. So it makes it as simple as possible.
I love software that's designed that way. It's kind of hard to misunderstand the APIs or you'll use it incorrectly.
Yeah, so a lot of the bugs that have come with encryption are these overcomplicated libraries, which is, I think, is what drove Google to write boring SSL. Like, just make it really fucking boring.
Make it reliable, make it boring.
Yeah. And there's only one way to call it, and you don't get to choose any of these parameters.
The less config, the better.
Yeah, because you're giving these tools to people that aren't cryptographers, so make it idiot proof.
It's back to some of the primitives of kind of Unix design and how you've got one tool to do one job very well.
Yeah, that's it. And the people writing the tools should decide all the complex bits because they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They should just give you the overarching sort of design of it and how you should look after keys and things like that.
Yeah, there's a reason you're not writing the crypto functions yourself.
Yeah. Never roll your own crypto.
Never roll your own crypto. Try and avoid authentication, all the usual tools.
Yeah. Well, the best people to follow are the sort of leaders in the space, like Moxie, who back in the day he came up with that sort of man-in-the-middle SSL attack.
Yep.
And then he did the Whisper protocol, and now he's working at Signal, doing all that sort of stuff. So just look up the specs they put out.
and these are people that spend their entire lives building these specs. This is not something they're doing on a weekend.
Yeah, and the hackers will try and hack them as well. So
that's why I'm quite, a bit of a tangent here, but we just had the Apple conference earlier this week, and Passkey, I think it was called. It's the new password technology they're looking at, hoping to roll out. Hopefully making an open standard from it and things like that. The sort of force behind these sorts of specs and initiatives are not to be ignored.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the protocol that they came up with for Signal is called X3DH,
right?
Like a key agreement protocol.
Catchy.
Yeah. It's an extended triple Diffie-Hellman. If you really wanted to know, use that.
Yeah. Try and say that after a few beers.
Yeah, but no, some of these libraries are great, and especially libsodium. It just simplifies it. But the biggest thing you can do for security is just to write down all the things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
And just think about it from all the different angles, and just start making a shared list. So I know it's boring, but
well, you've got to, in any sort of architectural design of the system, you need to weigh up the kind of compromises you're making with some of the decisions that you're doing. So
yeah, that's it.
The Petnet probably didn't. That probably didn't do that.
Yeah, you have to think about what happens when the internet dies, what happens when the battery dies, what happens when
your cat starves. Yeah.
My cat starves, or the cat opens the device and dumps the firmware.
And eats all the food inside of it. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just listing out all the risks, thinking about what the proposed actions could be, how likely they are, what's the impact.
Yeah.
All sensible things you should be doing on non-IoT projects as well, but you're not necessarily as exposed. If you build a Rails app, it's pretty common knowledge how to keep it secure. It's already got password hashing in it. It already stops mass assignment, all that kind of stuff.
And also, it's within your grasp to resolve those issues reasonably quickly. If not,
you can patch it.
But if you've got a device that you maybe didn't get the over-the-air updates properly on, then you're struggling.
Or you thought they were working, and then it's in the field and they're not.
Testing is important.
You've got a really bad problem.
All these fun things where you've got maybe thousands of devices all over the place that you need to coordinate and ensure stay secure.
Yeah, absolutely. And also making sure you don't DDoS yourself as well. If you've got 500,000 devices out there and they all want to talk to you at 12 midnight, don't do that.
So how do you work around that sort of problem? How do you?
So you can add jitter into protocols, and you can also give different nodes different delays.
Got you.
It's sensible to do that in LoRaWAN land, at least, because it's a radio protocol and they're all on 868 band.
So you don't overwhelm the band, basically.
So they all talk over each other if you don't put jitter into your protocol. So it can be just adding a random delay, or you can assign different nodes a delay within a communication.
So you could use sequential delay, or you could choose to randomize it, or however you want to do it.
Yeah, so in our over-the-air update protocol, we talk to them all at once, but we tell them, if you got any problems, you can let us know, but on this offset.
That's good.
So that when we finish telling everyone what the new firmware is, they can go, I missed this packet, but not all at the same time.
Yeah. Understandable.
But I think it's really interesting. And I could talk for hours about streetlights and IoT and things connected to the internet, but it's so fascinating when you move from just building a web application over a few servers. And it's cool that loads of people can visit it on a browser, but it's a whole different ball game shipping hundreds of thousands of devices and having them talk to you every half hour.
Similar problems, different solutions, I guess, which is quite exciting.
Yeah, and you can't just jam Google Analytics on them and stuff like that. You have to design your own
like monitoring systems,
and like all the rest of it.
That's really cool. So tell me a bit more about the Asthma project, because you mentioned that a bit earlier, and that sounds, I like the bridge between, because before, to be honest, we started talking about IoT, I just thought they were all shit. And my perceptions definitely changed based on some of the things we talked about today, but some of the projects you've engaged in have that really positive impact on people's lives, which you don't always get with these sorts of things.
So the end future goal is a lovely consumer focused app, and your doctor would say, why don't you have this device? And
so would that be like an Apple Watch in the future, or would it?
It could be as miniaturized as that, At the moment, it's like a bedside table thing.
Yeah.
And it would tell parents when it might be good to take their child in for more observation or whether there's a real big problem. At the moment, it's at the point where it's going through field trials,
Right.
Like clinical studies. So they can't like interfere with the devices, and we need to make sure that that's not possible, and all that, other considerations like that. It's a very exciting time for them, and they're working on the AI models to actually pick up on these different issues. But yeah, it's such a cool thing, and we love doing stuff like that where it's got a real world impact.
That sounds. I'd love to ask a lot more questions, but I imagine you can't answer them on the
Some
air.
of it might be NDA.
Yeah. But no, that sounds like a really exciting bridge of technology into real life changing diagnosis. And you've seen it a lot in the past in terms of the Apple Watch is quite well promoted the heart attack or irregular heartbeat.
It can figure out different heart murmurs and stuff like that. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
So I think that's that sort of application for technology and IoT devices, because I know that there's some for sleep apnea and things like that as well.
Yeah.
So anything around that would be just huge value to people's lives.
Yeah, obviously medtech has a whole different level of regulation, which as it should.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, we've got a few potential projects in those kinds of areas, which is sort of proof of concept stage. But yeah, you don't want to be diagnostic, because then you have to really be accurate, don't you? And I guess that was what Apple was worried about in the beginning, is like scaring people, basically.
Yeah, I guess you got to find the balance, and I'm sure there's something in the legals saying that this is not a diagnosis. But it's interesting because you want to give early signs of issues and raise the alarm where it feels sensible to do so, but you also don't want to make someone not wear a device because they're so worried about the diagnosis being wrong. Yeah,
definitely. And with data that's personal to someone's health, it has to stay on the device, really, unless they explicitly say share this, and that has to be a summary as well. Yeah, like a summary that they can visually see, so they know exactly what's been sent. It can't just be all the underlying data.
It's tricky, that, isn't it? It's really difficult.
Yeah, I think Apple gets it right.
They seem, I mean, I like a lot of the standardization that they've done around things that integrate with Apple Health and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and they've got FI, HR integration, so they can connect to medical systems and pull data out of those as well. Right. Which I don't think we use too much in the UK, but I think it's starting to more. Yeah. I mean, it's tricky again, that balance of commercial viability or what's possible versus what's right ethically, and what is the most secure way to do that. Yeah, I think the internet is just going to get more pervasive, and we touched on it in the metaverse episode, but we don't want it to be internet for the sake of internet and making people's lives worse and more complex
and more anxiety driven.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I think it's that metaverse conversation again. It's seeing a doctor in the metaverse, for example. Well, technically, if you're going to make a diagnosis over the internet, that data is going to be transmitted in some form. Yeah. So whether it's deeper stats or data points on what a device has recorded, or you saying to a doctor something, it's the same sensitive data, just in different formats.
Yeah, well, I think video GP is being a big game changer, especially with how difficult it is to get an appointment these days. Yeah, you have to ring at 8 on the dot, and then it's busy, and then
I could get political on that. I'm not going to.
But yeah, just seeing somebody over video calls so calming sometimes. Like, you can just say, "This is the problem." Yeah, I've got a problem with my hand at the moment. It's just like just some reassurance that I am not having a heart attack is nice.
It's not that, it might be this, but it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're not. I think you're okay.
I think I'm all right.
Thank God.
It might be in the conference that set me off.
Certainly I'm still recovering too. But yes, so I mean, anything else that you think we need to kind of discuss around IoT?
No, I think it's just exciting, and we're keen to do more IoT stuff, but we need to be mindful and not just adding internet to stuff for the sake of it. And it's going to be an exciting time, especially with predictive analytics and all that side as well. Yeah,
definitely. I think that's the thing, isn't it? Like, if you're going to go down that route, have intent, have an end goal. Don't just start collecting all the data, and make sure it's well thought out.
Yeah, defo.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, thanks for your insights there. It's super interesting to hear what you and Parallax are doing in that space. If you've got any other thoughts on this, obviously ping James on Twitter, Mr. Rio on Twitter.
That's it.
You can,
or at Parallax.
If you want to get him to build an IoT thing, that'd be even better. But yeah, thanks very much, Rio. Good to chat.
Thanks.
Cool.
Thanks for listening. You're listening to Off Script with James and Josh. Check out my agency Parallax and also Josh's agency Stack. And give us a like, give us a follow, and share this podcast with your friends. Much appreciated.